In the strictest secrecy in the small California town of Venice at home on November 6, 1935, 22-year-old unmarried actress Loretta Young gave birth to a healthy baby girl. That same day in New York, going to the premiere of the movie Mutiny on the Bounty, 34-year-old Clark Gable received a telegram, the sender of which wished to remain anonymous. A beautiful blue-eyed, blonde-haired baby girl was born at 8:15 this morning. The recipient became nervous and hurriedly disposed of the message. You're on the Frozen History Channel, and let's glue together the pieces of this incredible and tragic story. In early 1935, Loretta Young and Clark Gable starred in the adventure movie Call of the Ancestors, based on Jack London's work of the same name. In the story, Jack Thornton, Clark Gable, and his partner go in search of a gold mine. Along the way, they rescue Claire Blake, Loretta Young, the wife of their dead rival. Claire and Jack fall in love with each other and find gold, but Claire's husband turns up alive. There was an atmosphere of easy flirtation on the set. Natural shooting took place in the wilderness Mount Baker, about 3 hours from Seattle, in an atmosphere of snowstorms and a temperature of about 10 degrees below zero. Often the actors would warm up with brandy and have fun. Gable, whenever he looked for Loretta, shouted, "Where's my girl?" And she, flattered by the attention, laughed. Despite the sincere sympathy for his partner on the set, Loretta did not allow anything extra. She was infatuated with another man and dreamed of Spencer Tracy, with whom she recently began a romantic relationship. The girl checked her mail daily. Was there a long-awaited letter from Tracy? In February, the group was returning by overnight train to Hollywood. Loretta had a separate compartment. During the night, Clark stopped by to see her. What happened between him, Loretta kept quiet for years. In her mind, the word rape was too extreme for the situation. After all, it happens to women in back alleys, and when your no isn't considered a no, and it happens to an acquaintance, a friend, a coworker, what kind of rape is that? A short time later, one of Loretta's sisters, while at home, heard suppressed sobs coming from her room. Polly quietly opened the door. A frightened Loretta whispered, "I don't know how it could have happened. It was only once." "Maybe you're wrong. Maybe it's just a cycle failure." Loretta shook her head desperately. The sisters decided to tell their mother. Mrs. Young clutched her head. What kind of girl is this? At 17, she had secretly eloped with 26-year-old actor Grant Withers to Arizona and married him there. Mrs. Young raised her children as zealous Catholics. And there you have it. Not only did her daughter have an affair, that was half the trouble, but the fact that her chosen one was not Catholic, the mother could not forgive. True, not even a year later, Loretta returned to her father's house, having played the wife and disappointed in the marriage. Her mother refused to speak to her and forced her sisters to do the same. The boycott lasted a long time. But what happened now is just awful, plus Gable was married. Mrs. Young immediately called the family doctor, Dr. Halloran, and asked him to examine her daughter. The doctor confirmed Loretta's pregnancy and set the expected delivery date for early November. There was no question of abortion for the devout family. At the family council, they decided to hide Loretta's pregnancy and pass the child off as adopted. At the party on the end of filming, organized by Clark's wife, socialite Rhea, Loretta did not go, although she personally invited Mrs. Gable. First of all, she was terribly sick, and secondly, she was childishly afraid of meeting the father of a future child and his wife, who was 17 years older than Gable. Had the bosses of NGN learned of her pregnancy, most likely she was forced to have an abortion, as they did with Jean Harlow, Judy Garland, and others. Even worse, a terrible scandal would have erupted and the reputations of the two stars would have suffered. Hollywood in the first half of the 20th century was very reverent of the moral character of actors. Stars could even be punished for any kind of illicit liaison. Ms. Young needed to finish shooting in 2 movies while her belly was still unnoticeable. On April 21, Loretta appeared for the last time in public on the occasion of the wedding party of Hollywood director Ty Garnett, where she looked very tired and exhausted. There was an explanation for this. Lately, she had been working 18 hours a day. Soon, there were rumors of Ms. Young's illness. On June 29, Loretta and her mother went to Europe to improve her health. Upon her return, Loretta gave an interview to the Hollywood press, lying in bed and covered with many blankets to hide her belly. Ms. Young assured that she was feeling better and on the mend. Loretta was transported by her mother and sisters to a small cottage rented in advance, where the birth was to take place. On the due date, she gave birth to a daughter who she named Judy. For a short time after the birth, she stayed with a patronage nurse, Frenchie, who helped Loretta care for the baby. Dr. Halloran, who delivered the baby, filed Judy's birth papers on November 13, 1935, listing the baby's mother as Margaret Young, an artist in the motion picture industry, with a dash in the father column. Loretta gradually recovered from childbirth, and on New Year's Eve, bandaged chest, shown at a party at the producer Sam Goldwyn. Her daughter, who was staying with a nurse in the same cottage, Loretta visited at the first opportunity. Nurse Frenchie, conspiring with the housekeeper, decided to blackmail the Young family by threatening to give out information. But the housekeeper warned Loretta. Something had to be done quickly to prevent rumors. Judy was placed in a Catholic orphanage. In June 1937, Loretta publicly announced the adoption of the two little girls through Luella Parsons' socialite column. Parsons broke the news. Movie star Loretta Young confided to me today that she would soon become an adoptive mother. One girl is 4 years old and the other is almost 2. To all questions, Ms. Young replied, "I can't tell you how I got these children, but I want to forget as soon as possible that they are not mine." Soon Loretta announced with great regret that the older girl had a relative who demanded her back, and she was left with only baby Judy, whose date of birth had been changed to avoid various rumors. Nevertheless, in Hollywood, May guessed who the father of the child, noting the similarity in appearance of Gable and Judy. The same eyes, nose, ears, which as the girl grew older became more and more noticeable. Judith's ears were the same apopyriani as Gable's, and Loretta always in public covered the head of the little girl with a hat or curls. In 1940, Young married producer Tom Lewis. Before the wedding, Loretta told her future husband, "There should be no hush-hush between us. If there's anything you want to know, ask and I'll tell you." Tom kissed her and replied, "No, honey, it's all right." And from that time on, 5-year-old Judy took the name Lewis. The girl grew up to be just like her father. By the age of 7, she had to have a small operation on her ears, otoplasty. Soon Judith had younger brothers, Christopher and Peter. When Judy was 15, Gable, as if by chance, came to visit her. He asked Lewis about her life, hobbies, success in school, and then, leaving, kissed her on the forehead. It was the only time the girl talked to Gable, and at the time she had no idea that he was her father. Rumors picked up by Hollywood gossip columnists only confirmed her suspicions. Judy began to feel unwanted and alone. Like any adopted child, the girl repeatedly asked her mother about her biological parents, but never received a direct answer. Judy learned only in 1958 about her father. The girl was 23 years old, and she was proposed to by a young man named Joe Tinney. Judy said no. "You know everything about yourself. I, on the other hand, know nothing about myself." The guy replied, "You don't know. Everybody knows your father is Clark Gable." On Mother's Day, according to Judy's half-brother Christopher, Loretta and her daughter had a fight. Judy demanded that her mother tell the truth about her origins. Loretta retreated to her room, citing poor health, and said nothing. It was one thing to be conceived in love, but it was another. Clark Gable died at the age of 59 in 1960. In 1994, Judy wrote a book, Uncommon Knowledge, which begins, "My life has been filled with hypocrisy and deceit from the moment I was born." Loretta forbade the book's publication and disclosure of family secrets. After the book was published, the mother stopped communicating with her daughter for 3 years. All this time, Loretta successfully filmed, won new awards, was a respected person, an exemplary mother, and a zealous Catholic, helping charities and orphanages. During her career, she starred in more than 100 films and won the 1948 Oscar for Best Actress for her role in The Farmer's Daughter. Loretta simply decided to never tell anyone if her daughter was Clark Gable's daughter, and this decision she considered the only right one. She spent her entire life hiding what happened on set while her own daughter toppled her from her pedestal, calling her a hypocrite. When Loretta Young was in her 80s, she confessed to her daughter-in-law what had really happened to her. Judith did marry Joe Tinney and gave birth to a daughter, Maria. Judith earned a degree as a marriage and family therapist, starred in TV series, and produced movies. As she became an adult, Lewis spoke of her bitterness and confusion, the isolation and alienation she felt in her own family while growing up. At the age of 76, she passed away from lymphoma, outliving her mother by only 11 years. Friends, thank you for watching. Support the channel by subscribing, liking, or commenting. And see you in new exciting videos.